It's time. Look at the clock. Look at my sunglasses. It's time for Legal AF After Dark Edition. Speaking of in the dark, is the public ever going to get their hands on the Mar-a-Lago final report by the special counsel Jack Smith? Not if Eileen Cannon, the judge down in Florida, has anything to say about it. But does Merrick Garland have one last move left? Does getting it over to Congress somehow also get it into our hands? Or is it going to be lost forever after Donald Trump takes the oath of office a week from today or so, and his new attorney general kills the Mar-a-Lago report? Will we ever see it? Ben Meiselas and me have a very fierce and fiery debate about it. One place, Legal AF. Take a listen.
The DOJ report being released. Donald Trump got a favorable ruling from Judge Eileen Cannon. No surprise there. She's corrupt. She rules in favor of him for everything, whether or not she even should have had jurisdiction to block the release of the reports. Remember, there's a volume 1 and volume 2 of this DOJ report. Volume 1, January 6th case. Volume 2, Mar-a-Lago document case. Different treatment by the DOJ in terms of how each is being released. There was then this appeal to the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit ruled. Michael Popok, power through it, big guy. But you have to have your mic on if you want to power through it.
Shit, I was so excited. I forgot to put on my mic. 5 minutes or less. Here we go. We've got smartly, special counsel Jack Smith divides his world into two reports, volume 1 and volume 2. Volume 1, DC election interference, has nothing to do with Mar-a-Lago, has nothing to do with Judge Cannon, has nothing to do with the 11th Circuit. Volume 2, Mar-a-Lago. Interesting. We now know two things about those reports. One, they were both reviewed in the second week in January by Donald Trump's lawyers, Todd Blanche and others, in a closed, sealed, hermetically sealed room in Washington, D.C., so they could do comments. Of course, none of them were adopted. All it gave Donald Trump was the opportunity to write a 15-page letter, which got attached to a filing by his co-conspirators in Mar-a-Lago and made public before the reports were made public. But that's just how the Democrats, when they run the Department of Justice, like to do things. What we didn't know, and Donald Trump's lawyers didn't know, is that when the special counsel sent the reports as statutorily required under the special counsel law to his boss, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, he put a love note with one of them. The love note said, I recommend you don't release the Mar-a-Lago while there's a pending case there. The pending case is Judge Cannon dismissed the indictment, finding for the first time in 249 years that a special counsel is not properly appointed as an inferior officer by the Attorney General. Has to go through a Senate confirmation hearing and a whole refunding program. Wrong. Up on appeal with the 11th Circuit. But she dismissed her case. No jurisdiction, as far as I'm concerned, to do anything else in the case. It goes up to the 11th Circuit, where it's been sitting for several months, fully briefed, with just the two co-conspirators, Nauta and De Oliveira, the maintenance worker and the butler of Donald Trump, who are still technically in the case. That's where it sits. So that the recommendation which the Attorney General adopted is don't release volume 2 while those two are potentially still going to be prosecuted. Donald Trump having been dismissed from the case because he won election. There's no other way to put it. And so he's definitely out of the case. So Donald Trump was sort of like the kid pressing his nose up against the glass of the candy store. Like, he wasn't in the case, but he wanted to manipulate all of the strategy. So he was having Nauta and Oliveira, for whose lawyers he was paying for, file all sorts of emergency applications with the 11th Circuit. Stop the release of the reports. And with Judge Cannon, of course, they're going to go to Judge Cannon, who's got, who's going to do anything that Donald Trump says. And so two pieces of paper filed, two rulings. Cannon says, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Let's block everything, including the report that has nothing to do with my case. And we'll keep it as a block until 3 days after the 11th Circuit gets around to addressing the emergency stay that was issued to them. Now, she didn't have to do that. If the 11th Circuit wants to stay something, they can stay something. The DOJ files their own opposition to that through the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami and says to the 11th Circuit, release the reports, and we're making it easy on you. There's no issue here with the Mar-a-Lago case. We're not releasing the Mar-a-Lago report. We're only releasing the DC election interference report, which is Judge Chutkan anyway. Has nothing to do with these two. It may have something to do with Trump, but he's not in this case. So they argued that. The 11th Circuit agreed and said there's no reason to block the release of the report. I would interpret it as both reports, but at least the report about DC election interference. They didn't address the 3 days, which was weird, mainly because the Department of Justice, frankly, didn't ask them to. And so they said to kind of clear up this procedural hiccup, they told in their order Jack Smith's team or the Department of Justice, and if you want to get out from under the 72-hour thing, file an appeal and we'll take a look at it. Now, there's this gap from Friday to now. We're already on Saturday, and I looked before recording, or before our live. There's no movement yet by the 11th Circuit. If they don't make a ruling, even though Jack Smith has filed the appeal that was requested of him to appeal the 3-day, 72-hour hold on the report, Sunday's going to come and go, and that report's going to get released Sunday night. You and I will jump on some emergency legal AF or Monday morning to the American public. It's ready to go. I mean, that's the implication I got from Jack Smith reporting in his filings that it's with Merrick Garland. He's ready to release it. He was ready to release it, I think, on Friday. So it's ready. It's going to be 500, 800, 1,000 pages. And the smart thing I'll leave on this, Ben, the smart masterstroke, and you and I could spend, and we will probably when we catch our breath, like we could spend an entire show critiquing Merrick Garland and how that didn't really work out the way we wanted to. However, occasionally he's brilliant, or at least Jack Smith is. They have decided, you can tell, that Mar-a-Lago was going to be the report was going to be the sacrificial lamb. In order, it was like you were playing football. It was like the fake in order to throw the long ball into the end zone, which is the DC election interference case, to get that out to the public. That's the one when they're ranking it. If they, like Sophie's Choice, they could only choose one. They wanted the DC election interference case report to come out to the American people because it goes to the heart of our democracy and Donald Trump's interference with the peaceful transfer of power. Mar-a-Lago is interesting. Lord knows I've learned more from you about SIPA than I ever want to learn. I almost named my daughter SIPA. It was so interesting. However, it didn't have a lot of moving parts. It was about a post-president hiding docs, which we all saw. We all know it happened. We know about that. We saw the photos. Like, we know about that case. DC election interference, there is stuff in that report, I presume, we have not seen, have not heard of, and they wanted that. So they are sacrificing. We'll never, let me manage expectations. We will never see Mar-a-Lago.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
There's no way. You mean through a FOIA?
No, I mean, I think that there'll be classified portions, but I think there'll be portions.
Who's going to release it?
Well, it's being handed over to the ranking members in congressional committees. So it's not getting deep sixed. It's being turned over to the head of I believe, the Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives, the chair, a Republican, the ranking member, a Democrat, until such time as the case against De Oliveira and Walty Nauta gets dismissed. The moment the case the reason why that report is not being released is not the SIPA issues. It's one of them, but that can be dealt with via heavy redactions. The reason it's not getting released, and the best argument not to release it, is there's still a pending criminal case against Trump's co-defendants that are on appeal, and it would prejudice their rights because technically they still have a presumption of innocence, even though we all know Trump's going to pardon them or they're never going to serve a day in jail. So what it actually forces Donald Trump to think about is, am I going to have my DOJ dismiss the case against Walty Nauta and De Oliveira, at which point that could actually trigger the release of the report that gets in the hands of a Democrat in the House of Representatives, the ranking member, so it's not totally deleted and removed from servers. This thing will exist. And so then the fight becomes the release of it. And what we know is that the report at least gets out. So the brilliant move in my opinion.
Wait. I'm going to debate you. My understanding, and you and I could debate it here and on Hot Takes, is that Garland is not sending the Mar-a-Lago report to Congress.
Oh, I believe he's sending it to the, unless I read the 11th Circuit paper wrong, my view is that what Garland said was that it's not an emergency because we're not releasing it to the public. It's going to go into the hands of the 11. It's going to go into the hands of just the ranking members, and therefore all of Donald Trump's concern about the imminent publication, he has nothing to worry about. And that's how
I agree with you if you're right. But my understanding, and I read it too, the 11th Circuit brief, is he's not even turning it over, which means if I'm right, and we'll figure it out, if I'm right, then it goes to the next attorney general to make the decision, and it's tanked. If you're right and it's already going to be released to the Congress with a love note that says don't release, see, that's the problem. How do you, and that was the leak argument that, and I attacked, that the lawyers for Oliveira and Nauta were raising. I was like, it's not even going to Congress, so there's not going to be a leak. Welcome back, Legal AF, the podcast. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree, but we make our point known, and we do it with dignity, and we do it respectfully. Only on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. If you know everything you need to know about Legal AF and you're part of our audience, I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for doing that. Take that clip, though. Help us market Legal AF. We're continuing to grow our audience. Send it off to people in your life. Ask them to follow Midas Touch, Legal AF, and our new Legal AF YouTube channel, Legal AF MTN. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm Michael Popok. That was a clip. We do a full-length 1-hour podcast Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on all podcast platforms. And then, of course, we do hot takes like this about every hour. So we appreciate you being here. So until my next hot take, my next Legal AF contribution, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.